Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Minds and Money TV. My name is Jonathon Leader. I'm the head of investor content over here at Beacon Events and Minds and Money. It's my absolute pleasure to be joined by Miles Rideout. He's the Vice President for Exploration at Argentina Lithium and Energy. They are trading on the TSXV under LIT, the FSE under OAY3, and the OTCQX under LILIF. Welcome, Miles. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for the invitation, Jonathan.
Most welcome. Delighted to have you here with us. Let's get straight into it. Talk to me a bit about Argentina Lithium and Energy, yourself, the background, or what is the company fundamentally trying to do? What do investors need to know?
So we are a Canadian junior exploration company focused on locating and developing lithium brine assets in Northwest Argentina. We are part of the Growth Group, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I'm the exploration manager. My background is I'm an exploration geophysicist, and I've been working in South America since 1989. And a great part of my background has been in the lithium space since about 2005. And I've been working with Argentina Lithium and Energy Corp since 2021. And we've developed 4 large solar projects in Salta and Catamarca provinces. 2 of those projects are our focus currently, the Rincon West project up in Salta province. We're right beside Rio Tinto mining, and we are drilling out that project and defining that we have similar brines to what Rio Tinto has on their flagship lithium project. And then our second core project is the Antofalla North project, located beside Albemarle Corporation on the Antofalla Salar. We are not drilling there yet. We're just about to kick off the geophysical reconnaissance program, and then we'll be following up with drilling later this year.
Excellent. Sounds like an exciting story to tell. Obviously, many of our investors are going to be very well familiar with the critical minerals and battery metals space, but just for those that maybe are less familiar or perhaps just getting into the mining world and trying to bolster their portfolios, talk us about why lithium. What is it about that commodity that places it in such an important geopolitical position, but also obviously from a financial perspective is a highly attractive space as well?
The lithium industry is a growing industry. You have an industry which was extremely small about 15 years ago, and due to regulation and changing industrial requirements, the requirements for lithium have exploded. So over the last 10 years, the size of our industry, the lithium industry, has increased about 20 times over, 4 times in increased production and about 5 times in increased price. What that means is that a viable lithium project today is easy to put into production in terms of economics. And the next thing is that the payback on a project is very high. If you're developing a lithium brine project, you're pumping concentrated brines to surface, and you're removing the lithium from those brines and doing relatively low-cost processing, and then you're able to sell your production into a very high-value market. What investors may notice is that the market is fairly volatile. There's large swings in this market. But I think that the trend on the long term is that the market will continue to increase. One of the key factors in those trends is the regulation in North America and Europe, where the majority of private vehicle sales after about 2030 or 2031 are likely to be EVs. And so you look at what the automotive industry is doing, there's simply not enough lithium in the pipeline to guarantee supplies, and the automotive manufacturers are trying to secure their supply chain supplies for lithium going forward. We're going to see a lot of action in that field. We'll see a lot of investment by major automotive producers in our industry, and I think it's an opportune time for investors to take a look at companies like ours.
Absolutely, and we'll go into the role that the auto world is playing in a bit more depth. But I guess beforehand, Western Australia, well-known lithium jurisdiction, obviously Peru and elsewhere in Latin America. What was it about Argentina that attracted you there?
I'll make the point that where we're working is the Lithium Triangle, and I think investors, if they've heard the term but not understood it, it's a part of Latin America where there's a very large reserve of lithium, but in lithium brines or salt water in salt lake deposits. The three countries which figure in primarily in the Lithium Triangle would be Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. And what attracted us to Argentina is that lithium development and production in Argentina is regulated the same way as any other mining commodity. That means that we go through the same regulatory process during exploration and permitting. And once we go into production, we're paying a 3% net smelter royalty to the local province where we're working. Chile, even though Chile has really first-class lithium deposits, about 12 years ago, lithium resources in Chile were declared a strategic resource for the country, and the regulations have varied a little bit over the last 12 years. But what it means is essentially a lithium producer going online in Chile needs to partner with the Chilean government. It's a significant disincentive to foreign investment and to getting a project into production. And then Bolivia, even though they have very large lithium reserves in Bolivia, there are significant political and social hurdles to getting projects ahead in Bolivia. So my perspective, and I think it would be valid for investors as well, if you're looking at and investing in lithium brine projects, really Argentina, Northwest Argentinian projects should be your first stop. They have the easiest regulations and excellent quality deposits.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just from my sort of relatively limited experience in terms of mining operations, when I'm talking to investors and I'm talking to other mining companies, the relationship with both local and federal government is, in terms of obstacles to entry, often is the first one that will come up, is how difficult is it to get that project permitted? How fundamentally, whether it be political grandstanding or actual economic policy, how friendly is that government towards the mining industry? And are you essentially, going to end up having to constantly fight a long battle to eventually get your project online? It's great to hear that Argentina are taking I suppose, a more sensible view, at least in my view. Getting back to the EV sector. And you just began to talk about it in a bit more depth, and I cut you off, for which I apologise. But they play a vital role, because nobody sort of listening to this at home, I would hope, have ignored the fact that the real value in not only lithium but also nickel and cobalt and all these other different battery metals is the downstream use case. And the downstream use case for lithium is not only abundantly clear, but is also of huge economic importance to a number of sectors. But the EV sector is probably the most prominent and most intensely in need of that supply chain. Talk to us about your interactions. What does that look like? As well, how are the mining in the EV world slowly but coming closer and closer together?
Well, it's been driven over the last 10 years by speculative investments, often by junior companies, which listed maybe 10 or 15 years ago with a $45 or $50 million IPO, and they're now worth $1 billion in the market, something like that. So that has been, the driving force behind lithium over the last 15 years. It's likely to change because the automotive industry is coming in. They have deep pockets. And I'll just make the point, it's not just the automotive industry. There are major petroleum industry players coming into lithium space as well. And they're looking at a circumstance where their petroleum drilling and exploitation experience can be applied to something similar in terms of lithium drilling and exploitation. Both automotive and petroleum industries have significant concerns about the environment, so they will be pressuring companies to follow more environmentally friendly routes, more sustainable routes, and of course, monitoring how companies are doing their social interaction on around the development areas. There's both these industry groups can bring a lot of money into developing projects. So I think that even though we are currently focused in exploration, and many of our peer companies are focused in exploration, I think there's a clear route to getting exploration stage projects into production over the next 5 to 10 years. There's going to be a lot of money available for taking these projects ahead.
Yeah. And I guess that brings us on to, obviously, your company has been fortunate enough to benefit from some of this activity. Talk to us about the deal that you've done with Stellantis in October of 2023.
Sure. About a year ago, Stellantis approached our management team at the Grosso Group about investing in Argentina Lithium Energy. Their key concern is that they want to secure supply chain for lithium in the latter part of this decade. And they recognized that it was an early stage investment to invest in an exploration company. What we asked Stellantis for was funding to take our 2 core projects through to pre-feasibility over the next 3 years. And we estimated that would cost about $45 million US. Stellantis chose to invest in our company from their Peugeot subsidiary in Argentina. I'll just make the point, if people don't recognize the name Stellantis, Stellantis is the group behind Chrysler, Fiat, Peugeot, and a variety of other automotive companies. They're one of the 6 large automotive manufacturers worldwide. So we asked Stellantis for $45 million US. They chose to invest from their Peugeot subsidiary in Argentina, investing Argentine pesos, which they had on hand. And they said, with us investing Argentine pesos, the official rate, that would be equivalent to $90 million that they provided us. We received those funds in October last year, and we moved those funds received in pesos into hard currency and other forms. We prepaid about 3 years worth of drilling, for instance. And we secured almost $45 million from that single investment. As part of that investment, Stellantis received a 19.9% interest in our local subsidiary and an offtake agreement once we get into production. So the offtake agreement contemplates 15,000 tons per year lithium carbonate over 7 years, and Stellantis would receive a discount purchase rate on that quantity of lithium once we get into production. We have frequent interaction with Stellantis, and they have a member on our local subsidiary board. Stellantis can opt to move their investment into our public stock on the Toronto Venture Exchange. When they do that, they would have a voting member on our corporate board. So it's been a very fortunate interaction for us. We're funded for our exploration for the next 3 years, and we're on track to take our 2 primary projects through resource stage and through pre-feasibility using this fund.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that interaction between those 2 worlds and those industries and the way they're interacting, and it's not necessarily the first time that the auto world has tried to climb upstream in terms of its supply chains, but I think in the context of the energy transition, the context of lithium-ion batteries, I think it's a long-term trend that's here to stay, rather than a sort of a momentary change in tactic, which I think is more of a strategic shift that we're seeing. And I think it's going to be a long-term one. I suppose just to wrap up then, any news that we should be expecting from either projects, any drilling results, or any exciting news items coming down the pipeline that people should be aware of?
There are certain items to look for this year. We're currently drilling on the Rincon West project. We have 12 holes completed. They've all been announced. We're just starting our 13th hole. We have 2 more exploration holes to drill in the first half of this year, and we're beginning our rotary well drilling. So that means we'll be doing pump tests. All that drilling and the pump tests will be used for our initial resource announcement, we're looking to make a maiden resource announcement in September, perhaps October of this year, and so that'll be interesting to look for. And then we'll be looking at how to take this project into production. I'll just make the point that the area where we're doing our initial announcement is the western block that we have at Rincon West. We have 2 more blocks to explore. So even though that we're focused in one of these areas, as we complete drilling in the first area, we'll be moving the drill or drills to a second area and then a third area, and expanding the resource estimate over the next 12 months. We'll be trying to do this as quickly as possible. As I say, we've prepaid about $20 million of drilling, so it's all paid for. The other point of interest would be as we start work on the Antofalla North project. So Antofalla North is located beside Albemarle. It is recognized as a mid-grade brine salar. There's no drilling on our properties, but it's a very large property package, more than 10,000 hectares. And so it'll be very interesting as we start drilling there in the second half of this year, if we're producing economic grades of brine and grades comparable to what Albemarle has. Well, that would be something that would be hugely significant for our company.
Perfect. Well, listen, Miles, it's been great to hear from you. I'm sure our investors at home will be greatly interested to take a closer look at the project and the company. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you all next time on Mines and Money TV.